Hello everybody. If you are a Fanshawe EAP student in level 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, this is an important set of messages that you will need to help you make decisions and do all of the right things with respect to moving between EAP and Fanshawe College post-secondary programs or programs at Western University or King's Huron-Brescia. So the first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to apologize because some of the messages I give you today are going to be going all over the place because some of the messages are really more important for people who are planning to go to university after they finish level 10. Other people might be Gap 5 students, permanent residents and citizens in our program, and there will be important messages just for them. And then other important messages for people studying in levels 7 and 8 and so forth. I will be jumping around a little bit, but many of these messages are important for many of us. So please pay attention and be sure to get help with any of this information if you need help after you watch this video. So the number one critical piece of information that many of you need to know is the February 1st deadline. There is a deadline of February 1st to apply for competitive Fanshawe College post-secondary programs, and that includes definitely anything in healthcare, but also in some other areas as well. There is also a February 1st deadline if you have a letter of admission or what we call a conditional offer to study at Western Main Campus after you finish level 10 with us. There is also a February 1st deadline to apply through OUAC. And so, February 1st is coming very quickly, and that was the number one piece of information I wanted to make sure that those two groups of people have. On the other hand, if you are an international student, you don't have a conditional offer for Western or King's Huron-Brescia, but you know what it is that you're planning to study, there's absolutely no advantage to waiting. You really should apply soon. We can give you help with your applications, and I'm going to explain how you can get help with those things very, very soon in the next few slides. Many people think, oh, but I'm still studying English. I shouldn't apply for a program yet because my English isn't ready yet. And that might seem logical, but actually that logic in our situation is kind of upside down, because many programs that have space in them now and will have space for those who apply by February 1st, those programs might be closed by the time you finish studying English, and so if you haven't applied, you will be too late. The way it works with competitive Fanshawe programs, let's say you apply on January 30th and you study in level 9 or level 10 until, say, the end of April, then when you finish your English and you have proven English language proficiency for the purposes of your program, in the meantime, the registrar's office might actually cancel your application, but as soon as it gets word that you have proven your English language proficiency by getting 80% in level 10, it will bring back your application and it will still be dated the date that you applied. So anybody who applied the day after you, 2 days after you, 1 week after you, they will be behind you in line. They will not be in front of you in line for your spot in your competitive program. Very important information. And when I say apply, what I mean is filling out an online application. So for example, if you came here from another country with a letter of admission for Western already, you might think that means that you have applied. But until you have actually applied through OUAC, the Ontario University's Application Centre, you actually haven't applied for your program. So that's very important. And in fact, if you look at your letter of admission, you will see that it says right on it, you will apply through OUAC before February 1st. So So that's why I'm telling you that right now. For those of you who are studying as GAP 5 students, you probably had to complete the OCAS application yourself to apply just to study in GAP 5. And so this won't be terribly unfamiliar. It probably won't be too difficult for you, but you might have not been aware that you needed to apply for February 1st for competitive programs. So many people find the OUAC application to be very complicated and very detailed. Because of that, I have actually prepared a guide. The guide is full of screen pictures of what the OUAC application looks like. Western, when they saw my OUAC guide, they said, oh, can we have that? We want to give that to students who do their English at other language schools too, because they were impressed with how detailed and how accurate it was. Many students who complete an OUAC application incorrectly leave out important information and things like that. It can complicate your application quite a bit. And so if you follow my guide in detail, step by step, you can be fairly sure that you will complete your OUAC application correctly. And finally, let's say you're studying in our upper levels in EAP, level 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, but you really don't know what you're planning to do after you're finished studying in EAP, then you probably need some academic counseling. That's okay, but you probably should make that decision to get some academic counseling sooner rather than later, because the more information you have about what options might be open to you, what options might be good choices for you, the earlier you can make up your mind about that, the earlier maybe completing your English studies, going that extra step, making sure you get the best marks you can, those things will start to make a bit more sense because you will have a goal in mind. One additional message about academic counseling. Let's say you've been listening to me talk about competitive Fanshawe post-secondary programs and you've been thinking, well, which ones are they? That list can change from year to year. I will say some of the key healthcare programs such as practical nursing and pre-health, medical radiation, dental hygiene, etc. These are examples of competitive programs that are competitive at Fanshawe year after year. Some other programs are more or less competitive in different years. And once I have given you the contact names of people who can give you academic counseling, then you will be able to maybe ask those people about the choices that you have in mind. Is this a competitive program or not? There are quite a number of people who can give you academic counseling. Again, that message and those people will depend on what your plans are next. If you're an international student, then your academic counseling should probably come from the international office. And so Jessie Shee, Laura Costigan, these are great people to help you. And I will be introducing you to them later on in this video. If you are a GAP 5 student, Kate Day in the Advising Center through Registrar's Office is a great resource, and she can help you quite a bit with making your choices. On the other hand, if you're planning to go to Western, Teresa Serwatek, who works at main campus at Western, is a great resource. I've included her picture here so that you can see she is not scary. She's actually quite nice. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of Jillian Rutledge. If you are a GAP 5 student, she is the person that you would need to talk to at Western. If you're an international student, Teresa Serwatek is the person that you need to talk to at Western. Then, of course, there are different contacts for King's, Huron, Brescia. If you need to be connected with any of those people, then maybe you should just come and find me in A2003 and I can connect you with those people. Okay, so let's say you're an international student and you've been thinking, okay, apply? Do I need to apply? Have I applied? I don't know. Well, here's the thing. If you're an international student and you came to Canada to study in the EAP program and you already had a letter that said when you finish EAP you're going to go on to this program or that program, then that's okay. You have already applied. So there's nothing that you need to do with that. But here's where it can get a little bit tricky. Sometimes people change their mind about their program. Sometimes they change their mind about when they would like to start their program. And sometimes they decide, oh, well, I'm in EAP right now, but I'd like to change and I would like to prove my English language proficiency some other way. This can be tricky because International Services is trying to regulate, control, organize the flow of students from EAP to post-secondary programs. And so if you make a change to your plan, the one that they already know about, sometimes that means that they don't have space for you. So if you are considering making changes to your plan about any of these things, you really do need to talk to the international office about these changes, because the change will only be a good thing for you if there's a space for you in your program, the program that you want, the start time that you want, and everything else. Okay, so now I'm shifting gears. I'm just changing the topic of conversation a little bit. This information for the next slide or two is very specific to students in our upper levels who are planning to study at Western, and more specifically students who actually already have conditional offers for Western. So one thing is, after you have completed your OUAC application, then you're going to get a login for this thing called the Western Student Center. The Western Student Center is a very important way of Western telling you about things that it needs from you. Quite often these things are documents, transcripts, things like that. And later on, when you are a Western student, this is how you will find out that fees are due, and things like that. So the Western Student Center is an important communications link between you and Western Main Campus. You need to take your login information, you need to learn how to log in, learn how to read what's on those pages, don't lose your login information, all of that usual important stuff about logins. Depending on your educational history, you may be asked to do a WES evaluation. Now, Western is not asking everybody who comes to with a letter of admission to complete a WES evaluation of your transcripts from your country, but certain students, particularly certain students from China, are required to do this as part of their application. And it should actually say on your letter of admission or your conditional offer that Western is going to require a WES evaluation of you. So go back, look at your letter, see what it says. If your letter says you need to get a WES evaluation, the deadline is April 1st, 2018, and that is coming fast. Let's say you don't already have the transcripts that you need to get evaluated. That means you have to order them from your country. You may need to contact your parents. You may need to contact your agent. There are some steps that need to be completed, and I have no control over how quickly WES processes your evaluation. Nobody at Western has any control over how long it takes for WES to process your application. So my best advice is start now, start yesterday, start last week. Don't just keep putting this off. Make sure that you get whatever transcripts that you need to complete your WES evaluation and get them to WES, because this is going to be a critical part of getting your application accepted and starting at Western in fall 2018. So the EDF, otherwise known as the Educational Disclosure Form, is also a thing that Western might require of you. Western will require an EDF from you if typically there is a gap in your educational history. When you complete the OUAC application, you will indicate where you have studied and when Western looks at your OUAC application, if it identifies a gap in your education that is 6 months or more, Western thinks, has this person told me everything that I'm looking for about their education? Are they leaving something out? The EDF is essentially a form that requires you to fill in any missing information or else say, no, on my OUAC application I really did tell you everything, and yes, I am swearing that this is the truth. And so again, if in your Western Student Center you log into your account and it says that you need to do an EDF, guess what? You need to do an EDF. Again, I have prepared a guide about this because most people look at that screen and they think, I have no idea what this is, I don't know what this is asking me to do, and so I have a guide for this and I can make that available to you. Okay, so switching back over to GAP 5 students who are planning to move on to post-secondary programs at Fanshawe that might be competitive programs. So every year at this time, we send a list of students who are studying in levels 9 and 10 who are planning to study at Fanshawe. We send that list over to the registrar's office, and the reason we do this is because they can give you essentially preferential treatment in terms of your application. So let's say you're studying in level 9 and you're going to apply for, let's say, a very competitive program like respiratory therapy, and you apply for the February 1st deadline, but you're still in level 9 at that point. Then you move on to level 10. When you finish level 10 and get your 80%, the registrar's office will bring your application back if it has been canceled in the meantime, and it will be dated the original date that you made it, as long as we send your name to the registrar's office. Then they will know, okay, this person is in the process of working on their language, the end is in sight, it shouldn't take too much longer, and they will keep your name on file for that purpose. It's an excellent service that can really be helpful for our GAP 5 students. So, but of course, it depends on you applying by February 1st, especially if you're applying for a competitive program. So here's a bit of information that you may or may not have been aware of already. I've been referring to international students who are planning to go to Western with a conditional offer. They are people who actually have the ability to finish their EAP studies pretty late in our academic year and still be able to go over to Western and start studies at the undergraduate level in the fall. GAP 5 students are fairly different in that situation. Quite often, basically, they won't look at your file until everything is in your file. Everything is not in your file, at least until you have finished your EAP, and in many cases, it's simply going to be too late. Your program will already be closed. How competitive will it be for your program? How early will it close relative to when you have finished studying English with us? It really depends on the program. Western can tell you more, and as you know, I've already given you a contact person at Western for your situation, and I will show it again before the end of this video. Something to keep in mind, if you are planning to study something like hard science or engineering, you really do need to study at Western Main Campus. However, if you're planning to study something like social sciences or business, you could very easily study your major at one of the affiliated university colleges, King's Huron-Brescia. These also issue Western degrees, okay, and these are high quality programs, often smaller class sizes. So that's something you should keep in mind. King's, I know King's and Brescia for sure have a January intake, so that if you don't finish your level 10 with your 80% in time to start in September, you might finish it in time to start in January. And if you're listening to all of this and saying, hey, affiliated university colleges, King's Huron-Brescia, tell me more, keep in mind, even if you're an international student, that this option is open to you as well. So it's only fair for me to tell you all about this. All right, so here is a piece of maybe not the best news. Okay, if you're a GAP 5 student and you're studying in level 7 or 8 right now, and you're planning to go study at Western after you're finished EAP, the maybe unfortunate news is that it's going to be very difficult, probably impossible, for you to finish up your EAP studies and study at Western this fall, because there probably simply won't be enough time, and your program will be closed long before you finish off your English. But if you know that and you can be realistic about your plans, maybe you can make a different plan for the fall. There might be a post-secondary program that you want to take at Fanshawe, or even just some courses that you might want to take at Fanshawe while you are waiting for your start date at Western. Let's say you've studied biology in your country, but you've never studied it in English. There's all of that terminology that you could learn. You could refresh your skills in that area. There would be various reasons why that might be a good idea for you. It's important to have a plan. And again, academic counseling could be very important to you as you start to make your plan. All right, so I showed you this slide earlier with academic counseling contacts, but it makes sense to show it to you again because academic counseling really, really is important. So on my right, I have Laura Costigan of the International Office. And I also have Jessie Shee of the International Office. So if you're an international student looking for some academic counseling, look at them. They're nice people. They are here to help you. Okay? If you're a Gap 5 student, Kate Day from the Advising Center is a great resource for our Gap 5 students, and here she is. You can't wait to talk to her, I can tell. And the other contact information, the other contact people are listed on this slide. This slide will be made available to you so that you don't even have to write down all of this stuff or take pictures of it. You can just click on the link from the slide and email the person that you need to talk to. Or if they're here at Fanshawe, go visit them at their offices. So in the EAP program, we know that the reason why you're here studying with us is because you're really anxious to get on with your post-secondary education, and yet sometimes you still need a lot of information about your post-secondary programs or your post-secondary options and so forth. We do have regular activities to try to connect you with representatives of your programs. For example, we often will have a Pathways Fair where we will have representatives of different programs, and we all meet in one central location, and you can go and get your questions answered. If there isn't a Pathways Fair coming up immediately, you can ask to get connected with maybe a coordinator from your program, or of course one of our academic advisors. And so what I would advise you to do is just start thinking about what you know and what you don't know about what you want to do in terms of your academic future, in terms of if you know what program you want, well, what do you know about the program? What don't you know about the program? How do you get good marks? How do you get a good job when you're finished? These are all pieces of information that will be very important to you as you're making decisions, and also as you're finishing off studying your English. It always helps to know more before you start.
Okay.
As you've probably figured out, grades are pretty important. So for people wanting to study in diploma level programs, that 80% in level 8 can allow you to get there. And if you don't get there, then you might be looking at level 9, and you might be looking at level 10. If you want to go to Western, 80% in level 10 is essential. If you want to study in healthcare programs at Fanshawe, that 80% in level 10 is essential. But even if you are not looking for a program that requires that, or if you're unsure about your plans for the future, try to keep your grades up as high as you can, because the higher your grades are, the better your learning is, the more options you will have. It's really important to get the most out of the opportunities that you have for studying with us. That also includes, getting extra help from your professors if you're not sure how to be successful, using all of the programs that we offer through the Learning Center. All of these things can help you to improve your English learning, and improving your English learning will help you to improve your grades. And many times earlier in this presentation, I have talked about different applications and forms and things like that. And the best way to get help with your OUAC application, possibly your OCAS application if you need it, WES evaluation if you need one of those, the educational disclosure form if you need those, or even doing website research about post-secondary programs that you might be interested in. All of these things will go more easily if you deal with Paul O'Sullivan in our lab. If you look at your timetable, you will see hours in your timetable that say comp on them. Those are hours when Paul is in our labs, and so go and find Paul. He's also a professor of English in our program, and he's a great resource, and he can help you with all kinds of things, but especially things to do with the computer labs. Paul.
Hi.